Welcome to this week's edition of Outdoors Online, a weekly webcast produced by the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. I'm your host, Tom Jensen. Now that summer's in full swing, our state's wildlife management areas are going to get a lot of use. My guest this week is Jeb Williams. Jeb is, of course, the Wildlife Division Chief for Game and Fish. We're going to talk about how these WMAs get used and some of the rules and regulations that you need to know about. Jeb, first off, let's do some background on the actual WMAs. How many do we have across North Dakota?
We have 220 WMAs at this time across the state, Tom, and that covers every direction of the state, every corner of the state, every acreage size available.
How does that equate to acres?
Yeah, we have approximately 215,000 acres, and that's not all owned from the department standpoint. We have a number of acres that are leased, that the department leases, for example, through the Corps of Engineers, south of Bismarck, or, up in the Riverdale area or Williston area, we have a number of acres that we lease from the Corps of Engineers for wildlife management purposes.
And we have some that are very old, some that are very new, and some that are very unique.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is one of the nice things about our wildlife management areas. And we had this year, speaking of new and unique, Tom, we had a tremendous gift given to the department by an individual in the southwest part of the state that is currently our newest wildlife management area, and that's just southeast of Dickinson. And once in a while a person gets pretty lucky, and obviously this is a situation where we get lucky, but even taking that a step further as far as the luck goes, we did not have a wildlife management area in Stark County. And lo and behold, we get a donation from a very caring individual that wanted the department to have 1,100 acres. And so we were aware of the situation. We had met with this individual a couple years ago and aware that she was going to put this in a living trust, in a living will. But things can change, obviously. I mean, she met with the department and we talked about it, and we obviously were very flattered and very humbled to have that. But then when we found out she did pass on, that it still was that way, and we received the property. And so it's going to be a tremendous benefit to the people of North Dakota, and we're very humbled to have that opportunity.
Sure, they're all unique in their own special way. Let's talk about rules and regulations for a minute, Jeb. Let's start with camping, and now those rules have changed a little in the last couple of years.
Yeah, they have. Our department has had to take on a little different approach with camping with the increased activity in North Dakota. And of course, now it has slowed down some, and so we're actually at this time we're continuing to evaluate and maybe reevaluate some of those areas where some of the additional restrictions have taken place, have been added. And those additional restrictions have been no camping on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Our long-standing WMA camping rule has been a 10-day period of time where you can camp in a specific area for 10 days, but then you have to move on. Well, one of the challenges with that is our enforcement officers are very valuable. And so it's something that this has worked out very well, to where our enforcement folks haven't had to dedicate all of their time in determining when a person shows up and those types of things. Sure. It's cut and dry. It's simple. You can't be camping in an area on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And so that's something that our department is currently evaluating as far as if that restriction is still necessary in some areas. Some areas it is still necessary. Other places we are evaluating that and kind of seeing what seeing the busyness of the countryside, and it definitely is changing in some areas.
As long as we're this close to the 4th of July, Jeb, let's talk about fireworks.
Yeah, fireworks are restricted on our wildlife management areas for obvious reasons. They're not. It's not a compatible use with wildlife use, obviously, and fire hazards and those types of things. Our wildlife management areas are out there to produce wildlife and to provide recreation associated with wildlife and camping and fishing and those types of things. Camping is obviously a use that isn't necessarily a direct goal of the department, but we know that camping goes along with hunting and fishing. But it also, the uses have to be compatible with wildlife. I mean, that's our wildlife management area use, and so fireworks are prohibited on there. And so we just like to put out that announcement before the 4th of July, and obviously even after the 4th of July, when we know people still have a stock of fireworks on hand.
Sure. Plus, they make a heck of a mess, which brings to mind my next point here. and that's trash and litter on the WMAs. How do we stress to people that they need to pick up their garbage after they leave?
Well, most people do a very good job of that, Tom. I mean, some people probably could do a little better job of that. But again, I mean, having those public areas, people appreciate the cleanliness of those areas when you're coming into a campsite, and I think it's pretty common courtesy to try to leave that in that shape when you leave. And I think that people we need to stress that, and majority of people follow that. But it's always a good reminder out there that we want to keep our areas clean. These are public areas. We want we want the public to know that we have a lot of pride in those areas, and we want the public to know that when you come down to those areas, it's going to be a comfortable place to be with your family, and it's not going to have a lot of garbage and not going to have a lot of crazy activity associated with it. And that's the reason for our rules and regulations, to have a quality experience for the people that do visit those areas.
Like a lot of campgrounds around the state now, Jeb, do our WMAs have quiet hours, things like that, for more family-oriented activities?
Well, that's what our rules and regulations are essentially for in a lot of those areas, is to make sure that the activities that go on down there are family-orientated type activities, and that there isn't going to be a lot of loud parties going on in those areas. That's what our rules and regulations are meant to prevent.
Jeb, we have a number of shooting ranges around the state. They're scattered geographically all over the state. That's why we don't allow people to use our WMAs as shooting ranges. That's not what they're designed for.
I mean, obviously, during the hunting season and things like that, we allow shooting on there for hunting activities, but the indiscriminate target shooting around the WMAs is not allowed, and that's for a reason. We want that activity to be localized at a shooting range, and we recognize and fully understand that not all WMAs around the state have shooting ranges. The department is working hard to try to expand our shooting ranges in certain parts of the state where we know there's not a lot of them. But around a lot of areas, there is a shooting range close by that somebody could find. It might not be on our property, but the indiscriminate shooting around WMAs is not allowed. And again, we want that activity to take place on areas that are specifically designated for that, for safety reasons, for a variety of reasons that we like to see that activity just designated to a specific area.
All right. Anything else people need to be aware of?
Enjoy your time on their WMAs. People appreciate any public land in North Dakota, and our WMAs provide a very nice environment for good family outings, and that's one of our goals.
Thanks, Jeb.
Thank you.
You can find a complete list of wildlife management areas. Log on to the Game and Fish website at gf.nd.gov and then follow the links to the wildlife management areas page. There's bound to be one near you. For Jeb Williams and the rest of the staff here at North Dakota Game and Fish, thanks for joining us for Outdoors Online. We'll see you again next week.